This Jocks 94.5 podcast is brought to you by Millennium Satellite and Video. Log on to msbnow.com. TV excellence everywhere. That's Millennium. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning starts now.
Welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. It is 8 a.m., hour number 2 underway. We'll come back to our college football quarterback conversation here in just a moment. There may be a couple of Notre Dame quarterbacks Bryan Driskell would throw ahead of Tim Tebow. We'll have the conversation about this year's quarterback competition, the health of the offensive line, and more for the Irish in just a moment. But don't forget, you can listen online, jocksfm.com. Apps in your app store, iPhone, Android. Go download that for free. That'll give you the podcast. You can listen live. It'll direct you to YouTube. Search Jocks945 on YouTube. You can watch us live each and every day, or just tell your home speaker to enable the Jock skill and listen there at your house.
Bill Smith Buick GMC is the GMC Dealer of the Year, the national champion of GMC dealers. They're amazing. You go take the short drive up to Coleman, you'll see what I'm talking about. The second you walk in the door, the savings are ridiculous. Like a 2025 GMC Sierra SLT, $14,000 off the sticker. A Buick Encore GX, sporty economical SUV, $5,000 off the sticker. You can get it for under $25,000. That's an amazing deal for a nice, solid SUV. Telling you, take the short drive to Coleman. The experience that you'll have with their sales staff is off the charts. Andy Cole and Jonathan Yeager have created a great culture. That's why they've won 5 consecutive national championships. That's why they've won 8 overall. It's a dynasty, and it's right up the road from us, up I-65, exit 310, Highway 31. You can also shop online, have it delivered right to your driveway at BillSmithBuickGMC.com.
By the way, I wrote down like 4 more really good back and forths on this topic, so we're going to come back to it. Tebow or who you would take. Bryan Driskell covers Notre Dame, joining us now on the Higginbotham Hotline. Bryan, the all-time AP team came out, which I'll just say, and I think you'll agree with me, Quentin Nelson not being one of the guards is egregious. That would be the one offensive line position that I would have a problem with, because I think he did things in games that maybe no other human has done at that position. Should Tim Tebow be the first team AP quarterback all-time in college football, or is there another quarterback you think you might have ahead of him?
I think Tim Tebow was great. I have a hard time going with all time. I mean, I guess kind of part of it is when do we start all time? You know, so it was a very modern flavor to the all time list. But I mean, I know it's just one season, but you know, Vince Young was pretty special that one season. Has the same number of national titles. You have Matt Leinart. What he did at USC was pretty special. I think Tim Tebow was a great winner and a great warrior, but I kind of go through Baker Mayfield even recently was pretty amazing for 3 seasons at Oklahoma.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, you know, and if you want to go like old school, the problem is the numbers are so different in the modern era. The last 25 years, the numbers are so much different. It's like the NFL. You go back and you're like, well, how was Joe Namath that good? He threw more picks, he threw interceptions. Like, well, that was the era. That's kind of how the game was back then.
You could tackle receivers before they even catch the ball. It was a different era.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, quarterback discussion competition, always something that we're excited about here on Mac and Cube. Now, tell us what's going on. Based on everything I'm hearing, it sounds like Kenny Minchey might actually have the inside track over C.J. Carr, much to the chagrin of a lot of Notre Dame fans. I happen to think it's great, but because his mobility might make them very difficult to defend, and it tells me maybe he's made the strides necessary as a passer to improve in that area as well. So help me understand what's going on with the quarterback spot right now.
You know, obviously it depends on who you talk to. I do think it's a close battle. I would argue that Kenny Minchey right now does have the edge, although there's still some very important moments coming up these next couple of days. They've got a big scrimmage on Sunday. I think really what it boils down to, Greg, from who I've been talking to, it's C.J. Carr makes more of the splashy plays. He makes more of like the big impressive plays, the big arm throws, but he also has a bit of that gunslinger mentality. So those things also lead to more, you know, turnovers and mistakes, where what Kenny has done this fall camp is he's just been more steady. He doesn't make as many of the big plays, but he doesn't make the big turnovers. And Marcus Freeman's a guy, as a former linebacker and defensive coordinator, that he's going to put a lot of value in not turning the ball over. And I think Kenny's improved enough where he's become a more consistent player, that there's more of a faith that he can go out there. And then if things break down, he's got the mobility to go out there and make plays with his legs. He's not Riley Leonard, though. And that's something that some fans, Notre Dame fans, need to understand is, yes, he's a good athlete and he can run. He's not Riley Leonard. He's not that kind of player. He's more of an Ian Book type of player. You know, the occasional design run, but more of a scrambler, move the chains when things break down type of player. But, I think that Kenny's going to have to learn to be willing to take more chances, and CJ's going to have to learn when not to take some chances. I think that's going to be the key for these two players. But I'm more and more confident, Greg, that we're going to see both of those guys at some point in time this season.
Is it because of where the team is also right now, Brian, and Bryan Driskell joining us to discuss Notre Dame and what's happening through fall camp so far of obviously some injuries to the O-line, but still going to be a strength of the team, tight end strength of the team. Jeremiah Love, one of the best running backs in college football, receiver been upgraded again. You may not need super playmaker at quarterback right now for this football team.
Well, I think that's absolutely part of it. You don't need an elevator necessarily for the regular season. I still think that's needed when you get to the postseason, but maybe Kenny becomes that. Maybe CJ eventually wins the job and limits some of the mistakes, and he brings that. But when you look at the talent around them, you look at the defense they have, that's the one takeaway from fall camp. The biggest takeaway I've had, Cole, is this defense might even be better than it was last year talent-wise. Now, we'll see if Chris Ash can do as good of a job as Al Golden, but talent-wise, it's going to be an outstanding defense. And do you really want to be putting them in a lot of situations where they've got short fields to defend? My counter argument is you have a defense that can overcome some mistakes by a younger quarterback that can also go make plays. So at the end of the day, it's really a win-win situation from a talent standpoint with the two quarterbacks. You just got to figure out who gives us the best chance to win in week one, but also gives us the best chance to win in the quarterfinals, semifinals, and title game. That may be the same guy. It may not be, and that's the difficulty in front of Marcus Freeman when you do have two talented players.
How would you assess just kind of the development of the other pieces on the offense? We know tight end's a problem because of injury. We hope Eli Raridan can be who he was always destined to become, but injuries are of concern with him and with Bauman just shutting it down because he tore his ACL. It seems like it's become a bit of a problem position, but I am optimistic about what they have at wide receiver. How have you evaluated kind of their weapons and their development this year?
Well, tight end will be fine as long as Eli Raridan is healthy. If he gets injured again, then it's a major problem. And I think what you're going to see, Greg, is you're going to see fewer of the 12 personnel stuff that Notre Dame has relied so much on. And that was always going to be part of the plan just because of how deep they are. We saw the emergence of Jaden Greathouse last year, and you saw Jordan Faison perform well against Georgia and Indiana, and then you bring in Fields and Pauling. We've also seen some young guys really step up. Micah Gilbert, who's a redshirt freshman from North Carolina, has had a really strong fall camp. Elijah Burris, the son of Plexico Burris, has had a really strong fall camp. There's a lot more confidence in the depth and the playmaking ability at that position to where Notre Dame does feel they're going to be more balanced this year. And they know they need to be more balanced this year. And Sullivan Absher is supposed to step in for Charles Jagasaw. He gets banged up a little bit. And as you'd expect, Cole, from Notre Dame football, one talented offensive lineman goes down, you just open up another opportunity for a five-star guy, Gerby Lampert, to step in. And he's had a really strong last week and a half. They slid him inside from right tackle to compete at that right guard spot, and he's looked really good. I think the key for me is the line being able to be more consistent in pass pro is going to be a big key to this whole thing getting better. That's the run game last year was pretty solid for Notre Dame. Pass pro is a little bit of a different issue, and Riley Leonard bailed you out of a lot of – you guys saw it. Greg, you saw it in the Orange Bowl, how many times Riley Leonard was able to use his legs to avoid pressure. You're not going to have quite that same athlete this year, so that part still is a bit of a work in progress. But is that because they haven't improved as much, or is that because Boubacar Traore's healthy, Bryce Young stepping up, Junior Tuilamaka? That's really the thing you're going to find out when we get to Miami on August 31st.
I actually wanted to get your thoughts on Bryce Young because Greg and I have mentioned him a lot this offseason. Just think he has a chance to explode onto the scene this year. What has been the word? What have been the thoughts of how he's performed so far in fall camp?
Still young, flashy. There's days where Bryce looks like a future All-American and days where Bryce looks like a sophomore that's still trying to learn how to consistently win. And he's going to play for them. He's going to play a lot. He's going to be an impactful player. The defensive end to keep an eye on is Boubacar Traore. And if you go back and look at his PFF numbers through the first four games, if he could have kept that rate the entire season, he's got Abdul Carter type of numbers. That's how disruptive he was early. He played one snap against USC in 2023, and he sacked Caleb Williams on that one snap when he stepped in to fill in. He's just a twitchy guy. He's got sort of that unique ability to bend and win on the edge. He's the guy whose emergence this fall camp has really been impressive, and it's taken some of that pressure off of Bryce to be that guy. But, he's learning. He's going to be a factor for Notre Dame this year. But early on, Cole, it's really going to be about just throwing waves at people. I think the D lineman to keep an eye on, who I'm hearing a lot of buzz about out of fall camp, is actually an inside guy. It's Jason Onye, who's having a really monster fall camp.
Man, they get a guy or two stepping up inside. That D-line might be a problem again.
That's great news, for sure.
Yeah.
And week one will be a great challenge. Looking at Miami, I think they actually match up pretty well against Notre Dame, assuming their young wide receivers can kind of come into their own. They're going to find out week one. But looking at that matchup, and look, we saw Notre Dame lose week 2 last year and it not really have an impact of what they inevitably became. But how important is that week 1 game on Sunday night to knock off Miami and to kind of pick up where you left off last year?
As a Notre Dame fan who's was born in 1978, which means I've never seen Notre Dame win in Miami, that's a pretty big deal. I think it's one of those. But in seriousness, it's like, Marcus Freeman's got to slay some dragons, right? Haven't won a New Year's Six Bowl since 1994. Okay, check. Haven't won a national title, not checked. Beating Miami in Miami, something that we had, that Lou Holtz didn't do in multiple opportunities. That's got to get checked. And I think those are the things that Notre Dame's still got to prove. Can you go on the road to a place you haven't had success with and win those type of games? Can you start the season off a little bit more impressively at home against Texas A&M, something they've lost 2 of their 3 home openers so far. So I think those are the things about Notre Dame that we're still having to learn, guys, is last year was phenomenal, but can they string back-to-back great seasons, something they haven't done in the last 30 years. So they've had some great individual seasons, but they just don't string them together. And I think that's what that Miami game is really about for me. It's not so much about, it means you're going to be a playoff team or not. If you can lose in Northern Illinois at home and not only get to the playoff but host, losing to Miami's not going to crush your playoffs hopes, other than, you can't win too many more of these. I think it's more about just showing what kind of program this is going to be moving forward. Is it going to be like it's been in the past, where one great year is followed by an okay year? Or does Marcus Freeman say, no, this is just kind of who we are now?
Brian, I wanted to get your thoughts just on Chris Ash's now being the defensive coordinator. I thought Al just did an awesome job last year. I don't know if we are expecting any drop-off, things to look very different, but I do think he deserves that credit, and he's not being back. And it's just something I haven't heard being talked about much around this football team this upcoming season. What are your anticipations just for that part of the Notre Dame defense?
Well, that's the big unknown for me, Cole, because we haven't really seen them do a lot in fall camp. We see the first 4 practices. I think one thing that brings me sort of a level of confidence that he's going to make a smooth transition is because he's focused so much on not changing what they were doing. He's going to make some adjustments. He's going to do some things that fit their personnel, but he didn't come in like some coaches doing, like, okay, I know it was good, but we're going to do my thing now. He said, hey, look, there's a strong foundation to build upon, and we're going to stick to some of those principles. We're going to continue to allow Leonard Moore to do things that he does well, but there's some areas where we're going to get better, and we had a very young defense for the most part last year, so we're going to focus on those things. So a lot more focusing on fundamentals and being in the right position and things along those lines, which is something that you talk to former Ohio State players about. They'll say, hey, look, he was very much about know your job and do your job as fast and as hard as you can, and that's something he's focused on in Notre Dame, because he's more about, hey, let's let the talent take over and not so much let me go show everyone how smart I am, and I think that's worked pretty well so far. The big question is going to be, how does he handle things in game? I think what I've seen so far in practice has been great, but what is he going to be like making in-game adjustments and doing things at halftime to try to overcome maybe slow starts, or will he be as aggressive blitzing as Al Golden was? Those are the things I don't know, but so far I've heard a lot of good things about how the players have reacted with him and just how they're performing, and that's the thing I've heard all fall camp is defense has been really, really good.
Well, we appreciate the time today, Brian. A lot of awesome updates there around Notre Dame, this program, what's been happening through fall camp. Hopefully we can catch up with you again soon.
Looking forward to it. Thanks, guys.
There you go. Bryan Driskell, he covers Notre Dame for Irish Illustrated, does a great job with it. And that quarterback battle, Greg, is one that's a little surprising to some folks. When we came out of spring, people felt like, C.J. Carr, he's the guy. That's why Angeli transfers. He goes to Syracuse, and people felt like it was a done deal. Now, may not be a done deal.
And a lot of people upset about it, too. Like, a lot of people mad because they felt like finally Notre Dame was going to have a game-changing quarterback because they have a 5-star in C.J. Carr. Well, they might still just use the things that they've always used to be successful to win games this year. Like, that's what I think is kind of amazing. Like, they have never had a game-changing quarterback. And they've been to how many playoffs? They've been to how many games? They went to the national championship game last year? They didn't have a game-changing quarterback. They had a really solid college football quarterback. So I don't think there's anything wrong with having a game manager. If you're Notre Dame, you defend the way you defend, you run the ball the way you run the ball. So right. I'm a little curious why Notre Dame fans are so up in arms about the possibility of CJ Carr not being their guy. That kind of blows me away. I just thought for sure they'd be maybe a little bit better at quarterback than they were last year if CJ Carr were the guy, maybe have a slightly higher ceiling. But wouldn't you want to just rinse and repeat what you just did last season? At least I would.
You would think. That'd be one of the easier ways to do it. Okay, we're going to continue talking Notre Dame and having our quarterback conversation. I told you I had a couple other names I wanted to throw at the guys since the all-time AP team has come out. We've been debating who the quarterback would be for your sort of dream team or dream roster, or to just go win one game, who that guy would be for you. We'll finish that discussion when we come back. First, you're going to have to wait for that topic. One thing you never have to wait for, Greg, is your dental care.
That's because Family Care Dental has you taken care of. The urgent care officer can be seen the same day. Several locations to make it easy on you in Hoover, Fultondale, Homewood, Alabaster, and Trustful. They can get you in. Patients of all ages are accepted. Most insurance plans are accepted. And they can see you on Fridays and Saturdays, which is great, especially here during the school year. So call them today at 874-9605. That's Family Care Dental, 874-9605.
I got a couple more that I want to throw out there. Would it be Tebow or this guy? Some I think are going to be pretty interesting discussions. That's next right here on Jocks.
Go inside Jocks 94.5 on Jocks TV. Morning Jocks, Mac and Cube, three-man front video simulcasts are presented by Bill Smith Buick GMC and Game Day Men's Health. Watch on the Jocks mobile app and YouTube by searching Jocks 94.5 TV.